Welcome to the Vari Longmuir Podcast, episode number 3. Welcome to the Vari Longmuir Podcast, and as you may have guessed, I'm your host, Vari. Since stepping away from the 9-to-5 world back in 2009, I've been a creative director, illustrator, artist, business mentor, and coach to fellow creative types. The intention with this podcast is to offer a fresh perspective about what it really means to be a working creative. I'll offer you simple strategies to add a little more joy to your days and share my own insights and lessons learned, often the hard way, from over a decade of being my own boss. Now let's get into today's episode. Welcome to the podcast, guys. It's great to have you here. This week on the podcast, I want to speak to you about inspiration. And what I want to look at is the darker side of inspiration. We as creatives and artists can feel like we want more inspiration, like we can't have enough inspiration. And I know that was true for me at different points in my art and also in my business. But what I want to dive into today is how we can take this idea of inspiration, what is commonly thought of as a positive emotion, as a thing that we want more of, and actually use it in a way that is quite destructive to our life as an artist or as a creative business owner. So how can inspiration be a bad thing? For me, I know that one of the things that I struggled with in my business is that I was forever having all these amazing ideas. I would be writing in my journal and I would come up with idea after idea, whether it was about a new art collection, a new product I wanted to launch, a new collaboration that I'd like to do, a new service that I wanted to offer in my design business. I was just getting ideas left, right and centre, and that can be a great thing. You know, if you're a creative or an artist who has ever gone through that drought of inspiration, it's a pretty scary place to be, especially when your business and your lifestyle revolves around that. But having all these amazing ideas, it was a real game changer for me to see how this endless inspiration was actually a negative thing in my life. So let me explain that a little bit more. I would have all these amazing ideas and I would pick one and I would dive in feet first. It would be my focus for perhaps a couple of weeks or even a couple of months. And then, as would happen on a cyclical basis, I would then have another amazing idea and I'd be inspired to do something else. And as soon as this new inspiration dropped in, I would then lose all motivation and focus for the thing that I had been working on for the previous weeks or the previous months. And I would drop the ball on that one and I'd go all in on this brand new idea. And I really found myself in this cycle. I found myself being inspired, being all in, then losing focus, jumping ship to something else. And it really started to create this feeling of anxiety in me. I felt like I was on this endless cycle of having great ideas, but not being able to give them the time and attention and the love and nurturing that each of them deserved. What this resulted in my life and in my business was that nothing ever really got off the ground. Nothing got to the point that it could really have an impact and get the attention that it truly deserved. I would go all in for about 50% and then I would drop the ball and move and do something else. And I've seen this a lot with clients as well. So many clients come to me and their biggest problem is too many ideas and they feel so diluted. We know that on a day-to-day basis, multitasking is not productive for us. It doesn't help us get any further along. It certainly doesn't help with our stress and anxiety levels. And we know that picking one single task and sticking to that and giving it all of our care and attention is the way to move forward and the way to get results. What I hadn't realised was that I was doing this just on a more drawn out scale. My day to day, I was staying quite focused in the tasks I was doing on a daily basis, but I was multitasking with all these ideas. I used to tell myself that it was just that I didn't have the drive and I didn't have the energy and I didn't have enough time to take these great ideas and concepts that I had and actually see them through to something that was tangible and something that people could enjoy and people could use. This actually wasn't the case, because what I've realised is that it takes so much more drive and energy and time to get something off the ground than it does to keep it going. You know, I would do all the heavy lifting at the beginning. I would get all the structures in place. I would get things set up on my website. I would write the copy for what had to be written. I would do the sales page. I would get everything in line and then drop the ball. So through working with my own coach, I kind of explored this a little bit, because I could really see that this was a theme coming up in my life and it was a pattern. And it wasn't getting me the results that I wanted to get. What I realised was this, that if I allowed myself to quit privately, it avoided the potential of me failing publicly. Let me just say that again. If I allowed myself to quit privately, it avoided me potentially failing publicly. Now, there are so many creatives and artists out there I know can resonate with this, but it's often something that we don't realise we're doing. It is a subconscious thing that we think we're just moving on to a bigger and better idea, but it's because we are frightened to put ourselves out there and be judged for something that we've created. We avoid failing publicly because we don't want to expose ourselves to those potential negative emotions that could come from that. There's potential for humiliation, for embarrassment, for emotional exposure, for failure. And it's so much easier for us to fail on ourselves quietly than it is for us to fail publicly in front of other people. And I know this is the case for so many creatives and artists out there, because so much of ourselves is in our work, and it takes a huge amount of courage and vulnerability to open ourselves up to those potential negative emotions. So then that's when we indulge in this endless inspiration. And I say indulge very specifically because it is an indulgent emotion, this endless inspiration. And what I mean by indulgent emotion is that it stops us from potential failure. It keeps us safe and it keeps us in our little bubble, and it keeps us from stretching outside of what is comfortable for us. So some indulgent emotions might be confusion. It might be doubt. It may be worry. It may be indecision. How you know if you are indulging in an emotion is that it keeps you stuck or it moves you backwards. So a few examples for you are that you may doubt your pricing. You may have a service or you may have artwork and you constantly doubt yourself about the pricing. This is an indulgent emotion. This keeps us stuck in the same place or has us moving backwards. It may be indecision about tech things in your business. So when it comes to websites and newsletter software, this is something that keeps so many creatives and artists stuck or moving backwards, is that they cannot make a decision when it comes to tech things. It may be indecision about how many pieces to create for an art collection or what exactly you should offer as a service in your creative business. Or you may be worrying about what other people will think. If you start to market yourself, if you start to put yourself out there and allow yourself to be seen, then there's that worry about the judgment and criticism of other people. These are all indulgent emotions. Yes, they may disguise themselves as being important, and your brain will tell you that these are all important things that you should worry about, but they are purely just distractions and ways of keeping us stuck. The best way is just to go out and do it and open yourself up to those potential failures. Because what's the worst that can happen? You fail. It's actually not that big a deal. If you fail at something, then you can move on to another idea. Like we said at the top of the show, the problem is we have endless ideas. So failing on one idea, we should make it less important because we know that we have that endless flow of creative ideas and inspiration that we can continue to take out into the world. Don't allow these indulgent emotions to become more important than they actually are. So what's actually going on when we take inspiration and use it as an indulgent emotion? What I've found is that we do it for two reasons. The first one is that we don't want to be judged. That idea of emotional exposure within creatives and artists is what keeps us small and what keeps us from doing the big things in the world that we want to do. The second one is that we don't want to outshine others with something that comes so naturally to us. I've seen this time and time again with clients, and they'll say, but it's just so easy for me. I shouldn't charge what I want to charge or what other people are charging for similar work, or I just want to be helpful. I just want to help other people. This is a gift that comes so naturally, and that is true. But we should not hold ourselves back from creating the lives and the businesses that we dream of because something comes naturally. We should not use our natural talents and our natural gifts against us and as a way to hold us back. Author Marianne Williamson puts it perfectly in this quote, which I have written in my journal. She says, "Our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us. We ask ourselves, who am I to be brilliant, gorgeous, talented, fabulous? Actually, who are you not to be? Your playing small does not serve the world. There is nothing enlightened about shrinking so that other people won't feel insecure around you. And as we let our own light shine, we unconsciously give other people permission to do the same. As we are liberated from our own fear, our presence automatically liberates others." I just love this little quote, and it's something I remind myself of on a regular basis. I know it's been true for me that I have held myself back from so many opportunities in the early days of my business because of fear of what people would think, and that idea of who am I to play big, who am I to do this work in the world. But this is such a beautiful reminder of why not. All of our stories and all of our talents and all of our gifts are important. It may not be saving the world, but you can be having a positive impact and adding more beauty to the world. And who are we to hold that back from the world? If you recognize that you perhaps are using endless inspiration as a way to stay stuck and stay small, then give this exercise a try. I want you to sit down for 10 or 15 minutes with your journal and write down every idea you have. Do a thought download and write down every idea that you've had for your art or for your business, and keep going till you fill that page. Then I want you to pick just one idea. Now I know that seems overwhelming and there's so many little nuggets of gold in there. How could you possibly just pick one? But try and pick one and commit to not pivoting from that idea for a period of time. Now, depending on what the idea is, if it's a small idea, it may be that you commit to that for 1 month, or it may be 3 months, it may be 6 months, or if it's a bigger body of work that you want to produce as an artist, or it's a bigger service that you want to offer as a creative business owner, then perhaps you want to commit to 12 months. But pick that one idea and set that goal of committing for that period of time, and do not allow yourself to pivot. You have this list of all these other amazing ideas and they will have their time. It's not to say that you are excluding these ideas and that you never will follow one of them and use that in the future. But by picking one idea and giving it your full commitment and going all in with it is what will help you create that momentum and that change in your life. That's all for this week, guys. For updates, be sure and subscribe to my newsletter over at varilongmuir.com and come follow me on Instagram at Vari Longmuir. Thanks for listening, and I'll talk to you next week. If you enjoyed this podcast, I'd love for you to come check out my private coaching service for artists and creatives. Maybe you're struggling to commit to just one of the hundreds of ideas you have, or perhaps your confidence has taken a bit of a dive after that epic fail. Regardless of what you're struggling with, a single coaching session can give you the focus and clarity you need to make the next right move for you. Head on over to varilongmuir.com/coaching for more information and to book your session.